Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I am the style coach. This channel is all about personal style development, so if that's your thing, please make sure to check out my online courses. We've got Streamline Your Style, which is starting very shortly if you're seeing this go live. This 6-week online course is designed for people who have lots of clothes and nothing to wear and are feeling just generally lost in their style identity, and don't really know much about their colours, their body shape, their style personality, and they're in a bit of a rut. So if that's you, this course is designed just for you. So do check it out. We start on May 20th. So it's a 6-week course. You can study in your own time. I do go live with you as well. There's lots of challenges and workbooks too. So do check it out. It's currently on special offer. Today's video is a little bit different from what I've been doing up until this point, but I think still very strongly related because I've used all of my knowledge in styling to get to where I am with sewing. So I shared with you from my previous video some items of clothing that I wore on my holiday to Spain. And it seemed like a lot of you were sewists yourself, or were inspired to try it, or you realize that working with a color palette can help you buy fabrics with more intention so that you are not making things that don't really work for you. So I have found that the knowledge around working with a color palette, knowing my body shape and my style personality has allowed me to design clothes for myself that I know will work. Now, my technical skills need a little improving, but I wanted to share with you my journey from having zero sewing skills to actually making some things of my own. So I'm going to show you what I've been making along the way. There's a lot of fails in here, by the way, as well. Okay, you only saw the things that were actually somewhat wearable, but believe me, there was a lot of failures along the way. Let's not call them failures. No such thing as failure, only feedback. If you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Hopefully you'll hit that subscribe button and join the community here. And of course, welcome back to all the regular subscribers as well. Thank you all so much for the super thanks that is coming in. It really helps this channel to keep going and I can keep producing videos just like this. So let's get into today's video. Sewing has always been something that's interested me. I've been fascinated by people who say, I made this, and I have so much respect for them. And I think it was a natural progression for me to take my skills from understanding colors and body shape and take that to altering my clothes. And really that was my ultimate goal, was to alter clothes so that they would work perfectly for me. I realized that buying off the hanger, off the rack doesn't work for a lot of people, that the clothing industry, the fashion industry designs clothes for the masses. So they kind of fit everybody okay and fit nobody perfectly, right? Do you find that? If you're lucky, you might find something that fits absolutely perfectly like a glove. But for most of us, items need a little bit of tweaking. For me, it's generally trousers around the waistband. You would have seen that in my videos where I buy trousers, and generally the waistband is a little bit loose because I have to go fuller on the hips. So for me, it was all about wanting to just make alterations because I'm a big advocate of getting things to fit just right. They look so much more expensive when you make those alterations. Do let me know if you're on a sewing journey yourself, or if you're inspired to give it a go, or if you have any tips for me. I would be very grateful because I'm still early days in this exploration and adventure into sewing. I'm really enjoying it. I know there's so much more to learn. So my goal was for 2024, I said, you know what, enough talking about it. I want to actually do this and give it a go. Before this, I could sew a button. That was my level of skills, you know, hand sew a button. I could make it stay on the garment without falling off. It wasn't the neatest job, but I could do it. I had never switched on a sewing machine before. To be honest, they intimidated me. I didn't know where to start. It looked quite complicated. I was a complete beginner when it came to using a sewing machine. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a beginner's course. It was a 4-week course, 2.5 hours every Wednesday for 4 weeks. And I was just going to see if I enjoyed it, if I had the knack for it, what could I learn from this 4-week course. So this is going back to January, right? So we're talking about only like 3 months ago, not long. So my journey has progressed quite quickly, I would say. So I'll show you what I made in the sewing classes and where I started and how I progressed to actually making clothes. The first project that I worked on with the class was to make a pillow cover, and this is it here. You wouldn't believe, we made this on the first night. There was no way I thought I was going to come home with something that was functional on the first night. And I was so proud of myself with this pillowcase. I really was just so pleased, you wouldn't believe. So it's this envelope style pillowcase, and I think that's maybe what got me so excited, that a piece of fabric could be made into something functional within that short space of time. Now, looking back on it, it was an easy project. Of course, it was a beginner's class, but it kind of ignited something in me. The process of idea to creation to the physical product, it just excited me, and I thought, well, what else is possible? So I was relying on the sewing machines within the class. I didn't have one at home, so I couldn't wait for that following week to get back there and start a new project. The second week was quite the opposite. I was so frustrated and deflated about the project that we started. So we did little cosmetic bags. Now, this is not the one I made in the class. This is one that I made a few of them actually for friends. So they're lined cosmetic bags with a zip. And I got so frustrated with the project in that class because I soon realized that it was challenging my brain to think in new ways. Anybody who's into sewing will know what I'm talking about, that you kind of start a project inside out almost, and then at the final moment the final product is revealed. I got frustrated with myself at this point. I was impatient and I didn't quite get that project finished on that second night, and that made me want to go back even more and just kind of get it right. But once I did, I made like quite a few of these little zip bags for friends, just to get practice in as well. And yeah, I started buying fabric and I bought little zips, and I started doing things at home with a borrowed machine. Thankfully, my friend's mum had a spare sewing machine, which she very generously offered me to borrow to see if I wanted to continue with this passion, or was it just a blip, I suppose. So I'm still working on that machine. It's a Singer Talent. It's not computerized, it's quite basic, but it's been working great for me. The final project in the sewing class then was to make an apron, and that was a nice little fun project. We made this kind of two-sided apron, and I really enjoyed that. That was quite fun, and you know, again, something very practical that I could wear and then just tie around. So that completed the 4 weeks. So we did 3 projects in the 4 weeks, and there was a bit of space in between level 1 and level 2, and I couldn't really wait till level 2. So I borrowed that machine and I said, you know what, I'm just going to give a few things a go myself and see what happens. So I started making a lot of those cosmetic bags. I went and bought fabric, and the other things I started to make were projects that I could find easily on YouTube. So again, with this gingham fabric that caught my eye, you'll see that. So again, it's, you know, a little kitchen pot holder. I think that's quite cute. But again, you know, it's not perfect. You wouldn't want to look at this too closely because you'll see that, you know, there's gaps in the stitching and all of that kind of stuff. But you know what? I was learning, and, you know, looking back at it, it's still not too bad. I started making little gifts for people, something along the lines of this, or a pot holder for, you know, hot things for a counter. I started making those as gifts for housewarming and things like that, and I was really getting into it, but I wanted to challenge myself to make something that I could wear, and that's when it got interesting. Enter my pajama pants. So I bought this dolly mixture pattern, and by the way, this is where my color theory came into play, because I knew when I was looking at fabric, certain things were going to work for me, certain colors weren't, certain patterns were going to work for me, and some others weren't. So the knowledge of having a color palette plays a massive role. If you're thinking of making things for yourself, make sure that you know your color palette And because, you know, buying fabric can get expensive. Even if you're going to a thrift shop to repurpose something, choose the right colors. Otherwise, I don't see the point. You know, much like you would choose clothes in the right colors, choose your fabric in the right colors. Everything's based around my winter color palette. So I made these pajama pants. Now, they are super oversized because I wasn't confident with my seam allowance. I was like, oh, there's like 2 inches seam allowance, which if you're unfamiliar with seam allowances, it's far more than you need. But I was nervous and I said, you know what, they're pajama pants, I'll give myself plenty of room. So they are very roomy. I put an elastic in them. They also have pockets, which was a new challenge for me. And I just followed YouTube tutorials, to be honest. Once I had the basic skills of sewing, you know, finding everything else was pretty easy. In terms of pattern, some of you were asking me about, you know, where do I get my patterns? I copied a pair of my own pajama pants. I literally laid them out on tracing paper and copied them. That's what I did for these. And they worked out pretty well. Do I wear them? Yes, I do. And they're super comfortable. They're cotton as well. So I was really happy with those. Some other projects as well that were really handy for me to start, you know, practicing my skills. I made little tote bags like this. Now this fabric was, it's not in my color palette, and I had intended to give this as a gift to somebody with more autumn colors. I still have yet to do that, but it's a nice kind of crossbody style bag. And it was a good opportunity to work with some upholstery fabric, which is a little bit thicker. But it was giving me this kind of understanding and appreciation for how fabric falls on a body. And that is something else that, you know, I would talk about with people in body shape consultations. What kind of fabrics people should be wearing on what part of their body. Another really helpful step in making clothes for yourself. So now getting into my first daytime garment that I made. And some of you would have seen, if you're on my Instagram or watched last week's video, you saw me wearing this turquoise linen dress. This was a little haphazard. Again, I designed my own pattern for this. Just by following YouTube instructions. I found that part of the process quite interesting as well, to understand my shape and curves and everything, and give me a deeper understanding of body shape. It's really a fascinating thing. It was also my first time to put darts into an item. And I always say to people, you know, if you are a curvier person, bigger busted, fuller on the hips or anything like that, darts are something to look out for in your clothing. They allow for curves, and never have I understood that more than when I made clothes. So hopefully you can see, if I bring this up closely, you'll see that there is lines in the fabric here. I've knocked the camera now, it's shaking a little bit, but you can see those there. So this is where the fabric is pinched, and if I turn on the back, you'll see that the fold is there, and that I have sewn it so that allows for the curve of the bust. And I've put them onto the front of the hips and the back as well to allow for curves. You'll see that I have put in a zip, and it was all a little bit of a challenge, I have to say, and it's not the neatest job. I was so proud of myself, and I said I'm going to wear this on holidays, and I did it. So I'm really thrilled about that. And looking back on it, you know, it's a very doable project if you're new to making clothes. Certainly pajamas are the way to go. I'd say dresses are the second, because you don't have to get the fit quite right, especially if it's something a little bit looser. So I would suggest giving that a go if you are at that beginner stage. I had a little extra fabric when I was doing that project. So I said, okay, I'm gonna use it and make a little cropped top. This was definitely a little bit neater because I put in a lining of the same fabric on the inside, which just made everything a little bit neater, a little bit more professional looking. And again, a zip at the back. I have a matching skirt. The skirt's a little tight on the hips because I forgot my seam allowance. It happens. But it was a very interesting project, and I could pair this with like white trousers as well, or navy or something like that. So very happy with that. Next up is the cobalt blue dress that you saw me wear in those photos from my holiday last week as well. And a lot of you had love for this color. Again, I saw this in the shop and I bought this fabric with intention. I knew that this fabric was, or this color was going to work for me because it's a winter color. The other thing that I thought about was the design I wanted to create for my body shape. So the lower part of the dress is called a half circle skirt, which gives volume to the lower half. And me being a slight inverted triangle, wanted to bring that balance to my shape by doing that. I also made it a halter neck style, which helps with my proportions. And then if I turn to the back goes down in a little bit of a V with a zip down the back as well. And this was my first attempt at a princess seam. So again, all these seams are designed to cater for curves. Princess seam is actually made up of two separate pieces of panels, if you like, or fabric, rather than one piece of fabric pinched together to create that dart. So this was my first attempt. And again, I followed YouTube, look it up. There's so much information out there, the University of YouTube. So the princess seam goes right down over the bust all the way to the waistline. And then I connected the skirt from there. I put some nice lining of the same fabric on the inside. And I'm really thrilled about how this one turned out. It's definitely more on the, I'm not going to say professional side, but certainly getting there. So very happy with that. Next up is an outfit that a lot of you said was your favorite from my outfits that I wore away in Spain. It was the two-piece, do you remember this fabric? The two-piece skirt and the top, the little crop top. And I gotta say, very happy with how this one turned out. Really everything about it. I love the fabric, I love the pattern choice. Everything about it just made me happy. And I kind of just created the design myself. I knew I wanted two pieces and I understand the shape of my body and what works for me, and I just created something based on that. It definitely dips into my style personality. You know, it's quite dramatic in terms of its pattern. It's out there, it's noticeable. That was the day that someone stopped me and said, "Where did you get your outfit?" You know, they wanted to buy it. And when I said I made it, they couldn't believe it. So again, like, that was really great. I had extra fabric and it didn't work out so well. Let me show you. So in my attempt to keep challenging myself, I said, you know what? I think that fabric would look great as a pair of trousers, and I could wear that crop top with it as well. Well, I made those crop trousers. There you go. That's the crop trousers. And it's got a waistband fitting exactly to my measurements on the waist. And even, look at this. It's not the tidiest there, but look. It's got a zip. Look at that zip. How I've done that. I know I'm kind of like blowing my own trumpet here, but I'm very proud of myself. I loved how these worked out. The only thing is they're not that wearable. They're a bit crotch-tastic. By that I mean a little bit, you know, camel toe-y. I didn't quite get the allowance for the crotch quite right in hindsight. So that was definitely a learning curve for me. But I also learned how to do a zip closure on the front. And I know I would definitely do a great job on these next time. So, you know, I'll repurpose this fabric. I'll do something else with them. There's still plenty of it there. I could make lots of different things out of that. So, you know, nothing goes to waste here. I've also been making little dog neckerchiefs as well. And I know how daft this might sound, but actually I don't think it's daft at all. I've been making dog neckerchiefs for my friends' dogs in the dog's colour palette. Dogs have colour palettes too. If you want your dog analysed, let me know. So one of my friends has a dog that would be in the autumn palette. So I made her a beautiful autumn kind of paisley purple neckerchief. My aunt has a dog who's a little white Bichon Frise mix, and I made him a little blue neckerchief. And it just, don't you just love a neckerchief on a dog? I can't say much for clothes on a dog, wouldn't do that, but a little neckerchief, a little something, just makes them look so much more distinguished. If you're wondering about my next projects, well, I think first of all, I need to get my own sewing machine. I think I'm at a place where sewing is going to be part of my life. And you might be seeing more and more items that I make myself, hopefully. I do think I'll be investing in a good sewing machine very soon. I'm going to get a computerized one. If you have any recommendations, please let me know, by the way. But my sister has bought some fabric that she'd like me to make a bag out of, so I'm going to do that. We've already designed what it's going to look like. And only yesterday I bought some fabric. Look how fun this is. Isn't that great? I'm going to make a pair of pajama shorts for the summer. I think the fabric is just fantastic. I just needed to jump back in here because I almost forgot one of my fails. It's all well and good showing you all the things that work out, but some things don't work out. I bought this yellow fabric and it's a cool kind of acidic yellow, so perfect for the winter color palette. And my idea was that I'd make this long flowy maxi dress with this kind of collar type of neckline on it. And this was actually my first attempt at a dress and it didn't work out so well. In theory, in my head, it was great. But I soon learned that the flow of this fabric, which is kind of stiff and also quite sheer, did not lend itself well to be kind of a main fabric in a garment. It was, you know, quite see-through. The fabric didn't flow the way I had imagined it would. So a big learning curve there. And again, you know, this is nearly one block of fabric. I can still use this to line other items or work it into some other project, which I absolutely will do. But that was definitely something that didn't work out so well. But I'm always learning. And you know what? Sewing gives me such an appreciation for garments. It has made me really think about how something can be sold for $5, $10, $15. The fabric alone, the workmanship that goes into it, the skills, it doesn't add up and there's something broken in the system. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it and learned something new, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you again next week for another video. Thank you. Take care.